So today we'll be getting into the updates regarding Liv Morgan's promo, Edge's comments, Brock Lesnar's cancelled plans, and more. Let's start things off with the big updates regarding some of the big promo moments from last week's Raw regarding Liv Morgan's promo with Becky Lynch and Edge's promo with The Miz. These two segments were some of the most talked about moments from this edition of Raw, mostly due to the context of what Liv and Edge were talking about. Both Liv and Edge used the topic of recently released superstars in their dialogue. Liv Morgan's most hard-hitting line of the night was when she told Becky Lynch that her massive, greedy WWE contract is the reason why her friends and other WWE superstars are being released. We talked about that moment earlier in the week and mentioned how surprising it truly was because WWE never really mentions talent after they've been released. So it was quite the eye-opening line. We said it was a nice touch because it added some realism. We finally heard from Liv herself that yes, she's still suffering from her best friends basically being fired from the company. It's still something that's on her mind. But fast forward a few days later, and it looks like Liv's line is getting erased from history. It was noted that WWE has fully edited out that Liv Morgan moment from their official YouTube highlight channel and have edited out of other replays of the segment. That whole procedure is not anything new at all. WWE has been doing this for years. The live version of a segment will happen on Raw, but if there's a part they no longer like or don't agree with, they will fully edit out that part of the recaps and highlights. It happened most recently with Becky and Charlotte's title exchange segment, and it happened several days ago with the Alexa and Bayley's This Is Your Life segment. WWE appeared to not enjoy that segment so much that the entire actual segment was edited out of the highlights. So it was just a regular tendency for them to go in and edit things out that they don't like from the live show. And that's what happened to Liv. Liv's line being edited out is clear indication that they might have had second thoughts about it. Reports claim that there were several current WWE superstars and former legends that were complaining that that line left a bad taste in their mouths. Then of course later in the night was Edge's promo. Edge mentioned AEW's promo segment between MJF and CM Punk. He talked about how they had to mention The Miz for a cheap reaction. But Edge had another line that was really seen as the distasteful one, and that was a line in reference to John Morrison. Quote, "You use WWE to get notoriety for your next endeavor, for your next reality show, for your next dance competition, while you leave your partners high and dry to get fired." End quote. Edge was talking about how he feels like The Miz is more invested in his life after WWE, with all of his reality shows and game shows that he's a part of. Edge also went on to blame The Miz for John Morrison's release, since The Miz did leave him high and dry during the middle of a breakup feud. So as you can see, similar punchlines for Liv and Edge. They both mentioned recent releases, put the blame for the releases on another superstar, and made it a part of their story. Liv Morgan and Edge both did that in their promos, and that's what apparently didn't go so well with the backstage reactions. So everyone is split on it. You have your crowd that didn't mind the line because it was a bit shocking and unexpected. Then you have your crowd that thinks it was fully uncalled for. These individuals lost their jobs in WWE, and now it's like they're basically being made fun of, and the real-life event of them losing their jobs is being used for storylines. So you can definitely see the argument there as well. When you look at it through that perspective, you can see why some people didn't think it was that respectable. The lines from both Liv and Edge did their jobs though, it got everyone talking, but it just might have been crossing the line to a certain extent. So we'll have to see how both of these storylines will go moving forward, after these heavy lines have basically been removed from the story. Liv Morgan and Becky Lynch will meet on Raw for the women's title. Becky is favored to retain the title, and if that does truly happen, maybe Becky will cheat or win in a certain way that doesn't fully eliminate Liv's momentum. Liv definitely stepped up to the big stage and has matched Becky's intensity level during this entire feud. So hopefully it's enough for WWE to take notice and continue to use her even in other non-title feuds. Speaking of The Miz versus Edge and everything going on there around that story, Beth Phoenix recently dropped the big news that she will be stepping away from NXT commentary to spend more time with her family. Beth has spent the last few years in NXT as a commentator and did an absolutely phenomenal job and quickly became one of the best. Beth was recently in the headlines after fans speculated that she would return to the ring alongside her husband Edge to take on The Miz and Maurice. But only a few days after that story started picking up steam, Beth announces that she's walking away from NXT. So it was really tough to see her go, but it doesn't mean that the theory of her joining Edge isn't completely off the table. If WWE leaves it for one of the main shows, such as Royal Rumble or WrestleMania, maybe it's still a possibility that Beth could still return for a shorter program like that. So Beth Phoenix is leaving the commentary team, but everyone is still going to hold out hope for that mixed tag team match with Edge. Brock Lesnar has once again returned to WWE, but reports claim that the plan for his return was most definitely altered. Brock was always scheduled to appear on the December 3rd and December 10th editions of SmackDown. However, the original story was that his suspension was still going to be in play. So for those two appearances, it was most likely going to consist of Brock Lesnar trespassing and breaking the rules of his suspension in order to get his hands on Roman Reigns. Remember that the official Staples Center Twitter account had been advertising Brock's December 10th appearance for the longest time, but saying that Brock was planning to buy a ticket for the show. So naturally, everyone assumed that WWE would be taking that path with Brock Lesnar. It would have been that, yes, he's still suspended, but he's allowed to be at the show since he has a ticket. It's a pretty played out story by now. We've seen the exact same situation played out dozens of times over the last few years. But that seemed to be the original plan for Brock's return. Obviously, plans changed. They decided to officially announce that Brock's suspension was lifted earlier than expected. So there's still a lot of story there to tell, starting with who was the one that decided to lift the suspension, especially so soon after what he did to Adam Pearce and company. The suspension was much shorter than anticipated, so it'll be interesting to see if there's some story there to why it was lifted. If Brock still feels like playing mind games with Roman, you know that Brock would most likely mention something about Paul Heyman being behind the suspension, and that'll restart all the tension that was already there. But what are your thoughts on today's stories, and what would you like to see Brock do during this return? Leave your comments, don't forget to subscribe with all notifications on, and leave a like if you enjoyed. Thanks for watching, guys.